Hi, Tony. Oh, wait, your audio.
We cannot hear you. We can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
That is why you cannot hear me.
Hi, Tony.
I'm a radio guy. I don't get this video thing.
You got the video working, though. It was the radio that didn't work. Tony, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Oh, man.
It's good to see you, my friend. It's
Good to
been
see
too
you,
long.
Riz. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And Chris, I see the balloons are piling up back there. That's a good thing.
Indeed they are. It is a it takes 10 minutes to go to the bathroom to navigate this. It is
Get in and out of that place.
Yeah. I have to wait till I'm dancing in my chair because it's that bad, and then the navigation. It's nuts. How are you? How's work today? Everything go well?
Yeah, everything went well. There were moments, but everything went well. So thank you, and thank you very much again for what you did. That was really cool.
Oh, you're the best, Tony. You know you
I will send you copies of it once you send me an email.
Okay, you got it. Chris at DetroitLionsPodcast.com.
Okay,
Shazam!
easy enough to remember that one.
So here we are. We're at $25,471, and of course, because it's us, 69 cents. We don't do that. Our people. It's our people.
It's our people. Our people.
We've just killed it. We are now less than $10,000 away from crossing the $100,000 mark, Tony. It's really, I mean, that's for us. I mean, Riz is froze. That's okay. We got this. We're radio guys, right? We can do this. So yeah, we're very, very close to the $100,000 mark, and it's all these folks that have been watching and playing along, and the games and the stuff that we've done. It's been spectacular, and I mean, we've had pies to the face. As a matter of fact, I have to share one with you. I don't know, it's just a shortcut. It's not the whole thing, but this is something that happened with our good friend Jefferson today.
It doesn't get old.
No, it doesn't.
We are 100% going to put a beat behind that and turn that.
That is awesome.
Oh, so fun. It was great. Riz has been he did it twice. That one was Micro Mike came across town. Go ahead, Riz. I'll let you tell.
Yeah, so Micro Mike got me on that one. That was good. And he was pretty good with it. Didn't like get it up in everything. Then Fab from the Slack and a local here brought 2 pies over, and my daughter got me. And so a couple of weeks ago I had stated. It was actually the week before James Houston made his debut. I'm like, I don't know if he's ever going to play in the NFL. Like, I sort of dogged him. I'm like,
you said he would not play a snap in the NFL.
Yeah. And he quickly made me look like a complete buffoon.
Oh, poor Riz. Riz. We were going through. Just for context, we were going through Brad Holmes' draft, and we're going through, and I was like, James Houston, and like. The draft numbers are really, really good, and I could tell Riz was fine. I got to find a miss here. He's just looking too good. I can't feel. You could tell he was like, I don't want to feel like a slappy, even though these guys are these guys.
Like I need one miss besides if he ought to.
Yeah. He's like James Houston. He's like, I don't think this guy's going to play a snap in the NFL. Right? That's it. Just straight up. The next week, 2 sacks.
2 sacks and 5 snaps. Damn. I'm a freaking idiot. Yeah.
No, it happens. Whenever you do this job, when you've been in this business long enough, you get stuff like that that happens.
Absolutely. And you got to own it. You can't, run away from it. So one of the pies said the problem, and the other one said, I love James Houston. And they both went into my face from my daughter, and she definitely had some thrust behind them.
Yeah.
Would you just got a big one. Tony, you are a magnet. Malcolm rolled in, Malcolm Simpson, $1,000.
All right.
You all are blessed, and thank you for doing this to support children, and thank you for making my Lions fan experience so awesome. I love you, big dog. Malcolm, I love you too, brother.
Thank you. Malcolm came to our party last summer. Has been to a couple of those. Great guy, one of my favorite people to just sit and hang with. We get to do it more often. So thank you, Malcolm. That's incredibly generous of you, sir.
Absolutely. Yep. Great job, Malcolm.
He's such a good guy. Okay, sorry, I hate to say the ones that you got to hit those, right? I mean, my goodness, $1,000 is a big one. We're so close now. We're so close. So Tony, where's your balloons?
Yes, sir.
You said you're gonna. Did your lips give out?
Yes. Let's go with yes.
Yes. Okay, fine. I appreciate it. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. So, Lions this year. This has been a heck of a year. The Lions, of course, have started out, and at the beginning of the year, after New England, the calls started. You heard them. People grumbling. Yep. We want Campbell's head. He's not the guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't do this. Jared Goff, garbage time. He's no good. He can't do this. This whole thing. We need to blow it up and start over. I mean, the chant starts. Same old Lions. You just started hearing it. Since that point, I think everybody on this team has learned and grown and turned this thing around. Do you remember? I mean, in all your years reporting, a season like this for the Lions, it started like that and came out with a trajectory with so much hope for the fans at this point.
Wow. No, it's been a long time. The only thing that comes close maybe would be Jim Caldwell's second year when they got off to the slow start and then kind of picked it up towards the end. But it's been an amazing roller coaster ride. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. And the biggest thing to me, and Riz, you can back me up on this, they got healthy. Yeah. They got a lot of their weapons back. They got healthy. And now we're starting to see what this team could have been had they been healthy at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely. That's been a prevailing theme with all the people that we've had in. When we ask, what helped?
Yep.
Jerry Jacobs getting healthy, Josh Pascal coming onto the team, Jeff Okudah getting more comfortable. DJ Chark back healthy last week. That certainly made a difference. We're seeing a lot of that. So yeah, you're right on with that.
Yeah. Everybody getting healthy has been absolutely key. And now we're seeing this offensive line is playing better. Jared Goff has got more time. He picked apart the Jaguars. I was surprised the Jaguars couldn't mount a pass rush. I kept thinking this is going to be a really good test. They had success against Buffalo. Let's see if they can carry that over at Jacksonville. And they just absolutely outplayed Jacksonville. To me, as impressive as it was the way they played against Jacksonville, I thought the game against Buffalo was their best game of the year because they took on a legitimate Super Bowl contender and outplayed them for 59 minutes. You could make the case that they were the better team on Thanksgiving Day until the final minute of the game.
That Buffalo team, those players, other than Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, they looked dejected. They looked like they had given up, like they had the fight beaten out of them. And, I mean, if I'm Dan Campbell, look, we lost. I think back, I'm guessing now, 2014, 2013, somewhere. Bill Belichick, New England Patriots, they got their rear ends handed to them from the Kansas City Chiefs. Right at the beginning of the season, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, this is over. They have no chance." And I remember watching the video they put together that year, and Belichick was like, "Well, no, I saw the guys didn't give up. They fought all the way to the end, and I thought, you know what, we have something here. We have something we can build from." And they took that team and won the Super Bowl. Right? It was really something to see how it was an embarrassment. That was an embarrassment game for them, and how the group of people that were involved didn't give up. They still believed, and they knew they just had to keep working and get there, and then they did. And I kind of get a sense that there's a lot of that. We're not giving up, and I don't know if it's the hubris of youth with the youth movement we have with the kids playing or what, but this is really a team that's dialed in and isn't going to give up and believe in the plan. And I think just that alone is helping carry them along. But yeah, that Buffalo game was just stellar play by a bunch of guys who believed that they were going to beat that team.
That game, by the way, was a tough game for the Ortiz household because I grew up in Buffalo.
Right.
So I grew up a Bills fan. My wife and my son are Lions fans. So I show up for Thanksgiving for the game with my Buffalo Bills jersey. They're wearing, my son's wearing his Detroit Lions jersey, and they're rooting for the Lions. I'm sort of rooting for the Lions, but I'm really kind of rooting for the Bills because I know how important this game is for their playoff hopes and, for Super Bowl chances. And it was just an amazing time. And, I got the last laugh, but for a long time there, I will never admit it to them, but I was sweating.
Oof. You walk into Thanksgiving and you can't lose. That's what it is. Oh, was that Jordan in the background?
Yeah, Jordan goes, what you do, right? Yes, I do.
You're not fooling anyone, Dad.
No.
So a lot of talk about Jared Goff. there's believers, there's disbelievers. There's a lot of people that say he needs a team around him. I always kind of chuckle, and you know how I am, Tony. I like to kind of pull people's strings. But when they say, "Oh, well, Jared Goff can't win unless you got a team around him," I'm like, Matthew Stafford didn't win a single playoff game here until he went and got a team around him. I mean, all quarterbacks need a team around them, really, right?
Correct.
And I mean, we're seeing with, like, the other part is when we talk about draft. I don't want to get too deep into it, but the point I make over and over is it wasn't Jared Goff or the offense that lost the first 3 games of the season. And if you have a defense that's even mediocre or less than mediocre, you win those games. We're an 8-win team right now. And we went through the stats, and I could pull them up here in a minute if I need to, but I asked Risden on the last podcast, I'm going to read you some stats. This other quarterback is, whatever it is, 3,000 yards. This Jared Goff, 3,053. The other quarterback has 4 interceptions. Jared Goff has 4 interceptions, right? And I went through, and their stats were almost identical. And I was like, well, who is it? And he's like, Jacoby Brissett. No, it was Kirk Cousins. They are almost identical stat-wise. And it's like, 2 completely different narratives of 2 quarterbacks who are probably very similar in their abilities and skill sets, yet completely different narratives just because of the team around them.
Yep. One's got 10 wins. One's got 5 wins. One's about to win an NFC North title and go to the playoffs. The other one's kind of struggling to battle just to even get into the playoff field and to be mentioned as a playoff contender. So, yeah. It's the whole perception is reality thing, especially with the stats, with those quarterbacks, and with the teams they play for.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Vikings don't ask Kirk Cousins to win games very often.
No,
he actually has a couple of times this year, but that's where we got to get with Goff. And to the defense's credit, to Aaron Glenn's credit, to the training staff's credit to get everybody healthy, we have a defense now that can do that, that can make it so he can win a game or two if he needs to. It could very well be against Minnesota. We might need a game-winning drive at the end of this time that doesn't end in a field goal with a guy that has a groin problem. That would be nice.
Hey, Riz, do you buy the addition by subtraction theory?
I do.
Hutchinson and Aubrey Pleasant gone, and suddenly everything looks completely different for this team.
I do think that there's more to it with Aubrey than there is with TJ, but I do think that when you took Hawkinson out, it's like one less needy mouth to feed. Yep. Like he was so I watch Dr. Pol all the time, the vet show, and they always have there's the top piglets go for the bigger teats. Yep. And you got to get it on that. And Hawkinson was the guy who was going for the big teat to get get the best milk and get the big production.
I want to see.
And now that you don't have that. Now Jared's free to spray his milk more places, and it's working very well.
I don't think I'll be watching the game Sunday the same way after hearing that explanation.
Tony, this is the game we play. Now you have to continue the metaphor.
Please don't.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I don't think I can keep abreast of this.
No, but to your point, Tony, like TJ Hawkinson does things that Brock Wright and James Mitchell can't do.
Correct.
But they're not things that are needed for Ben Johnson's offense. Like it's superfluous. He's a very good player. He's been great for Minnesota. This is truly one of those win-win trades. Minnesota fans very happy with TJ Hawkinson. They're very happy to give up a 2nd-round pick for that. I look at it and he wasn't coming back here, not for the money he was going to ask for.
No.
I'll take pick 61 for that. I can turn that into a starting safety or a starting outside cornerback or something like that. Maybe my future right guard. Maybe who knows? Maybe another wide receiver with some size to play on the outside. There, the possibilities there. They're going to get enough value extracted from it that they're not going to miss it. And I liked it. And again, Vikings fans really like the trade. Hawkinson's been good for them because he fits what their offense wants to do with a tight end more. And they missed it. They let what's the guy from Central with all the tattoos, who is now with the Jets. He moved on in free agency. They missed him. I can see him.
I can too. And Irv Smith was doing well before he got hurt. I mean, he really was a good piece of that offense.
Yep. And they made that trade right after he rolled his ankle. And I don't think that the Detroit side of things picked up on that. They were that was kind of a desperation move for them. they know their windows this year. Like the way that Kirk is playing, the way that Justin Jefferson has emerged as perhaps the best wide receiver in the league, he's certainly in the conversation for that their defense is getting older. You know, they're relying on Patrick Peterson and Danielle Hunter and Harrison Smith, guys that are probably on the downside, or like if they're not there yet, they're starting to go down the hill a little bit. And they got to get it done this year. So it was an all-in move for them. I like, we talked about this last year a lot. Like, I want my team to be in a position to go all in and not be crazy about it. We saw it work with the Rams. It might work with the Vikings this year. I hope it doesn't work this weekend, but they are a playoff team. They got as good a shot as anybody the way that they've been playing. So here's
the other narrative too that drives me nuts about the Vikings, Chris and Riz. People are sitting there saying they're the worst, and my son has done this too. They're the worst 10-2 team ever in the NFL. I am a huge Bill Parcells believer, and you are what your record says you are. Their record says they are a 10-win team and they're a playoff team. They are, by record, one of the best teams in the NFL. Are they? Yet to be determined. But they are still one of the best teams in the NFL based on their record, and you are what your record says.
You could be the worst Super Bowl winner.
Absolutely.
You're still walking off with the trophy. Really quick, you got a question from the chat. Can you ask Tony where this team ranks in best up-and-coming Detroit Lions teams throughout the years? Because there's been a lot of up-and-coming teams along the way.
You think so you go back far enough to, we had Herman on earlier today. Mm-hmm. And he talked about the team that he came up with Barry and with Lomas and Glover and that crew. Mm-hmm. Are they there in your mind?
No. Okay. I don't think they're there because that team had a really good defense that they were also developing, which this team doesn't have. 2010, the team before Jim Schwartz, second year Jim Schwartz, just before that 2011 team, which made the jump and made the playoffs. Right. That's what this team kind of reminds me of. They've got the pieces there. The division's tough. They're still making mistakes that are costing them games, but you can see them making that leap next year, especially if the Packers are declining, especially if Chris was saying, the window is closing on the Vikings. The Bears are going to be the Bears. They have an opportunity in the next year or two to be a possible playoff contender in the NFC North. Or we're going to look at a division like the South where the team gets in, they'll be barely 5. They'll be 9-8, 8-9. They might be in that type of a division considering what the Packers and Vikings do going forward.
I think the Vikings, one of the big things the Vikings are facing is that salary cap. That's why I think that also made the Hockenson trade a lot easier because I'm not sure they can keep him. I'm not sure they can hold him and that he'll be there next year. And 2 years from now, I highly doubt it because the guys are going to have to get up or give up in order to keep TJ Hockenson. Are just not going to work. I think that it maybe made sense for them to give it up, make their run this year, and then start trying to get something out of him and his contract.
I can see that.
Yeah, they're gonna have some tough decisions to make. But
I can't imagine the TJ's at the top of the pile of them, though. You know what I mean?
I would agree.
They especially for Kirk. I mean, how long does Kirk have in his contract, Riz?
He's got 2 more years. I think he signed a 3-year contract. He might only have 1 more year after this year.
Okay, all right. So maybe
he is the ultimate winner in terms of the NFL salary game. He really did like break the mold. Like, I'm not going to sign, a 5-year, $90 million contract. I'm going to sign 5 $30 million 1-year contracts, and it worked out brilliantly for him. And there are a lot more players and a lot more agents that are looking at that like, hey, maybe I should only sign for like 2 years, $25 million instead of 1 year or 5 years and 60. Like, it's the same annual salary, but you get more contracts, which means more signing bonuses. It means more chances to get, more guaranteed money out of it. It's as much as we hold Kirk Cousins in some disdain, he's been brilliant on that front.
He has been amazing at managing his contracts. It's just incredible. There's a big look. We've got a little bit of an inside scoop. I want to know, Tony, if you can break a little bit on this. If anybody knows anything about it, I think it would be Tony Ortiz. He has the history, he has the knowledge, he has the information. He's been there.
Green Bay, little old ladies, bratwurst cart outside of the radio studio. Just a little. I might know 1 or 2 things about that. Don't forget the zip sauce.
Oh man, that is great. That was fun. That was a great interview. You guys together still have the mesh of personality that you guys bring, and it's great. You guys are a great group, man.
I think I'm gonna text Brandstatter tomorrow and just text him 2 words, zip sauce, just to see what he responds.
It'll be something fun because the Michigan's doing really well. He's a happy guy these days. Tony, you mentioned growing up a Bills fan. Their offensive line in the 70s was known as the Electric Company. What made that group blocking for OJ special? And what would you nickname our offensive line?
Wow. That's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one, but it was a cool name. The Electric Company was absolutely cool. Yeah. That was a great nickname for a group. I think what helped them out was they enjoyed playing with and for O.J. Simpson. They enjoyed that. They enjoyed the recognition they got from getting him for a 2,000-yard season. And it was a group that came up together. And I think that was the key for that particular offensive line, because they all came up together and they had some really good coaching there in the 70s. So, and they were a running team. Remember, the 70s were completely different in the NFL. The 70s teams, threw 15, 20 times a game, Riz?
Yep.
You ran the ball. That's how you moved the ball in the NFL in the 70s. You ran the ball. You didn't throw it.
Tony, remember back when Air Coryell and they started having the tight end that would come out as a receiver? It was Kellen Winslow. He was fantastic at it. Remember the Miami Dolphins? Where's their fullback? They got 3 wide receivers on the field. Like, we only got 4 defensive. Like, who's going to cover that guy? That's why Dan Marino was so incredible early on, because nobody'd ever seen. They run 3 wide receivers as their base offense. Like, boom.
Riz, I remember
there's a lot of credit for that.
Riz, I remember when the shotgun was a big deal. Whoa, the quarterback is dropping how far back? That's crazy. And it was wonderful to see.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I mean, as a Bills fan, I can't believe this didn't hit me right away. We have this big auction going, auction.detroitlionspodcast.com. We have a Buffalo Bills Electric Company member signed helmet. Now, I need Riz to say the name. It's a full-size helmet signed
Joe Delamalure.
Thank you. Too many consonants. And
he's from the Detroit area.
Yes, he is.
Because when I did the all-time all-Michigan Detroit team, he was the guard on it.
You look over.
He's a Hall of Famer. He went from Buffalo. He went to Cleveland. He was on the Cleveland teams when I was a little kid and was still a great player.
Yep.
I want to say that he's from the Flint area. Or maybe Bay City, maybe more up that way, but he was a hell of a player.
Signed helmet, Hall of Fame 03, sitting there, beautiful. It's sitting like just in the other room for me. It's gorgeous. I held it. It's only the auction price right now. It's tragically low, $69.69, of course, right? I mean, that's who we are, but great price for a great piece of memorabilia. Hall of Fame guy, man. So you can head on over there, Tony, if you want to try to push some people up. Look good.
I might consider it.
Suitable for display, I think is the words they use.
I would display it probably on my case, on my trophy case. Trophy case,
yeah.
Oh, come on. You've got to have like all kinds of like plaques and glass and everything else, Tony. You just toss it, huh? It's nothing to you. You're too good.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Oh, man. All right. So what do you think? I mean, prognosticate the rest of the year. This Minnesota game feels like obviously probably the most difficult game of the year. The Jets are going to be one that's probably up there too, but you prognosticate the rest of the year for the Lions. What do you see out of this team?
I think they fall to Minnesota. I think they go on the road and lose to the Jets. I think they beat Carolina.
Okay.
And now I have to remember the final 2 games. I know Green Bay's the last game. What's the game? Chicago, thank you. I think they beat Chicago. When you get old, you forget these things. And then I think the Green Bay game is going to be fun because there's a chance Green Bay could be in the playoff race at the end. There's a chance it might be Jordan Love at quarterback instead of Aaron Rodgers. So I think they'll win 2 of the next 4. And then let me put an asterisk next to Green Bay because I have no idea at that point what's going to happen. Who's going to be playing for the Packers? What's going to be at stake for both teams? That game, early January game at Lambeau Field is never fun. Well, no, let me rephrase. It's fun. It's not fun weather-wise, but it's always fun. That's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah. So you got them. That's 7-10, 8-9 range.
Correct. Which is what I thought they'd be at the beginning of the year. 6-7 wins. So right about that.
Yep.
Yeah. They just got there in a weird way. 1 and 6 to 5 and 7 has been a hell of a ride.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And you think about it, I mean, we talked about this a little bit too. It's kind of nice where the team was at the beginning of the year. I mean, if you had a realistic expectation to see December, they're in the hunt, there's meaningful games. And at the end of the year, if things go well, like, because they could beat Minnesota. I mean, Vegas knows something they could. I'm not, it is what it is, but they could walk out and miss the playoffs by a game, right? Or get wrecked in the playoffs because of that tie. And it's been forever since we've talked about that. And that feels good. That feels good.
That tie is going to come back to haunt a number of teams in the NFC because, and I was watching the end of that game and I kept telling my son, it's like, somebody's got to win. Hopefully somebody wins this game. It would work to everybody's advantage for either the Giants to win or the Commanders to win. And it just didn't work out. And that tie is going to screw everything up. Seattle, Detroit, you name it. Teams in that area, they are going to be messed up because of that tie.
If they tie again, because they have to play again, everything will be right with the world. But
they play next week. It's true.
Oh, man.
Did they flex that to Sunday night too?
I think they did.
Okay. I'm good with that.
That would be
I'll take that. That'll be a good game. Right. Like Washington has quietly, like the Lions, risen from a slow start around a plucky quarterback and a defense that got healthier and started playing better together. Funny how that works.
And Riz, here's the other thing. Just like Dan Campbell, Ron Rivera was on the hot seat with everything going on with that franchise. You thought, well, this is it. He's gone. And then they've turned things around. Now suddenly it's like, give this guy a longer contract. Rivera proves that he belongs in Washington.
I feel like
we can tolerate their owner.
I was going to say, with everything going on with that organization, I would feel like his seat is the least hot.
He's got job security.
Some of the things that came out this week about that, like I hear people complain about the Ford family. I'm like, this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, y'all got to get out of your bubble, man. Yes. Like, look at what's going on in Washington. Look what happened in Houston. Look what's going on with the Raiders. They can't pay free agents cash. Like, they got to defer it. Like, there's so many more messed up ownership situations than what the Lions are. The Lions just don't win. Like, at least they're not a colossal embarrassment and laws.
Well, the national games were typically an embarrassment, but now, I mean, that's turned around. They had a hard time in the big games for a number of years, and it was hard for fans. But they're just a bad team. Ownership wasn't super effective at getting the right people. I mean, there's that, but I mean, the Snyder, Houston, that is and even
McNair, Jimmy Haslam, doing what he did with a number of things.
The
taking advice from a homeless guy to draft Johnny Manziel. That actually happened. That's a real story.
The Deshaun Watson thing didn't do anybody in Cleveland any favors either. No. I mean, there's
no.
The NFL's
that's been a nightmare. That's one of the reasons why I've scaled away from that. I don't need that mess in my life.
Yeah.
That I will.
Here's how bad the Cleveland Browns franchise is. Draft day, the movie, wasn't the worst thing to happen to that franchise.
Yeah, you're right.
You're absolutely right.
That is an awful movie. The less you know about football, the more you like Draft Day. The more you know about football, the less you like that movie. I have tried to watch it, and it's just not happening.
Other than Jennifer Garner, it's just a hideous watch.
I agree. And I like Kevin Costner, and I cannot watch that movie. I can't. It just, it makes my skin crawl.
How about Yellowstone? You a Yellowstone guy?
You know what? I'm starting to get into it. I've had a couple of friends recommend Yellowstone and say it's really good. And again, I like Costner. I like Kelly Riley. There's a number of good actors in that series, so I'm slowly getting into it. But what I've seen so far, I really, really like it.
It's been good. I paused at a crucial end of season, and I didn't want to get into the next season because it's so busy. But I'm like, I've got to pull this out. I've got the break coming up to hit it. But it is. I'm 3 seasons in or 4 seasons in. It's good stuff. It is really good. So.
The problem with Yellowstone is I also discovered Andor on Disney Plus, which is a Star Wars series, which is really good. So I'm watching that, and usually I get focused on one and everything else falls by the wayside. So right now I'm watching Andor and really enjoying that. So once that's done, I'll try and pick back up with Yellowstone.
And right when I thought I was fully convinced that Mandalorian is gone, it's coming back in like March.
Yep.
Oh, I was so happy. I liked that. I liked that one.
I like that show too. That is a really surprisingly good show. I thought, okay, 1 season and maybe the second season will dip. It actually hasn't dipped in quality. It's been 2 solid seasons.
Yeah. It feels like Star Wars is better on the multi-episode series genre than it is as a movie anymore.
Book of Boba Fett notwithstanding.
There you go.
I don't see any of that stuff. I don't pay for TV. My wife has been watching the Kevin Costner show. I've poked my head
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looks okay.
It's fun.
A little violent for my liking, but I'll get that.
Riz is over here saying live long and prosper. I love to.
I just wish I had time to watch some TV, a series. I just don't. If like last night when I got home, I'm like, I got to go to bed early. I flipped on some volleyball. I watched Wisconsin and somebody play volleyball. I forget. God, it was in the NCAA tournament too. I should probably know that. But like that's what we do. Like our house has volleyball or basketball on like all the time, or football. That's pretty much all I watch. Like my kids, they get made fun of because they've never seen any of these movies. Like they haven't seen any of the Batman or Superman or DC Comics or Marvel. Like that's not in our world. It's not in our bubble.
It's not the Risden universe.
No, it's not.
To use a line from The Mandalorian, sort of, this is not the way.
Yeah. This is the Risden way.
Not opposed to it. It's just not something we're doing,
Oh God, it's hard to keep abreast of all these shows. You're right. That was clearly the best line of the night there, Tony. By the way, because it slid by unnoticed. It slid by.
By the way, does this count Sunday as a meaningful game in December for the Lions?
100%.
Okay,
100%.
Just wanted to make sure.
Because let's be honest. If they win out, they have a genuine chance at the playoffs. So it is meaningful. Okay. How the outcome? Well, that may change the rest of the game's meaning in the level meaning. But I think Vegas is kind of with me. I think the Lions have a genuine chance if they play Jaguars ball against the Vikings. Because look, that last game in Minnesota with lesser corners and more injuries, they had a shot. They have the talent. They just have to be the right version of the Detroit Lions, and then they can pull it off.
Chris, I don't know. If this wasn't Christmas and I needed the money desperately, I might go all in on the Vikings with 1.5.
Wow.
Just saying.
And Tony's never wrong. We should call him Tony the Greek. When we were doing the pregame show, he would wipe the floor with me every week.
Yeah. Hold on. Stop. Chris, let me bring my family in so you can say that again, that Tony is never wrong, so they can hear somebody else say it. Thank
you. Somebody not named Tony say it.
Exactly.
Oh, man, that's great. So
where's your competitive game? Since we haven't done a true game preview other than Scott Bischoff and promoting what he did, where's your advantage for Minnesota in this game?
Defense. Their defensive line play has been really good. They've been able to get pressure on the quarterback. And look, I have a little more faith in Minnesota's secondary. To me, that secondary is playing better than the Lions secondary at this point. So to me, the defensive line and the secondary, that's the big advantages for Minnesota. And look, here's the third one, and it's not a roster. It's confidence. I think the Vikings have more confidence, especially if this is a close game. I think the Vikings have the confidence that they can win a close game. The Lions have some confidence, but to me, when you get to 10 wins, that's a hell of a lot of confidence right there.
They have certainly proven that they can do that. They're 9? They're 9-0, I believe, in the one-score games, and one of them was against the Lions.
Really quick, I have to jump in. Top of the hour, it's balloon drop time. Another $1,100 raised. That's 11 more balloons. And here, put them back there. They're sticking to the hair on my legs. Push them on the other side of the room. It's driving me bonkers. Thank you, baby.
That is awesome.
Slowly and surely. Here, let me. Just do.
There's a lot of balloons behind you, sir.
Yes.
See if I can.
Oh my!
It is full, like top to. Oh, they're still coming. They are nuts.
It reminds me of like the ball pit where there's going to be like a weasel living in there that attacks little kids.
All you're missing is Chuck E. Cheese behind you,
Yes.
Interestingly,
Chuck E. Cheese.
Have a slice of pizza.
Oh man. Chuck E. Cheese has some bad pizza, man. It was grease.
It was sugar, man. Their sauce, it was perfect for little kids, right? It was little kid crack is exactly what it was. And that, God, the sugar in that sauce. But
I may or may not have had a family member that worked there at one time.
Really?
One of my fraternity brothers was Chuck E. Cheese, the guy.
Yes.
And he said it was such a terrible job. Like he'd have every bodily fluid known to man on his uniform every night because all the kids are coming up to him and they're like, they're little kids. Oh, let me love you and let me rub my nose on your fur, type of stuff. Let me sneeze. Let me wipe this pizza on my hand. It was so gross.
I know one time my son said he had a kid try to punch him in a sensitive spot while he was in the costume.
Oh.
So now it's no longer a family member. You've given up, Jordan.
Yeah, I know.
Straight up.
I'd be terrible at witness protection.
Thank you.
Oh, Christopher Loney, thank you. $50 to St. Jude. Thanks for all you guys do. Go Lions. Yeah, no, thank you, Christopher. It's what you guys are doing. And Nick Anson hit us with $25. Super Bowl 2024, baby. It's possible. I mean, the right pick. So let me ask you this, Tony. I feel like, and look, I think Jared Goff, if he plays like he does when he's got talent around him and when they're healthy, he's a guy that can get you there. I think, like we talked about earlier in the season, the big problem was the defense. I think if you use some of your capital on defense and get that destructive defense, that's the thing that can really push you much more, I think, than it really. I mean, it's truly a gamble. It's always a gamble, whether you have Jared Goff or any team out there that goes for a quarterback. It's an absolute gamble. I think it's like a 95% miss rate or something really. It's probably not that big, but there's the miss rate is really, really high. I feel like that other positions, and specifically positions we need, defensive line, spending the capital there can turn this defense into something that's absolutely formidable. And if that happens, I mean, we're scoring averaging what, like 30 points a game, 35 points a game. I feel like that's good enough to win anywhere.
I agree. And defense is the thing that travels in the NFL. And Riz, hopefully you agree with this. It's good to see defense back in the NFL once again, instead of what's been an offensive league for a number of years. And if the Lions can be at the cusp of that, if they can improve their defense and be that type of team, yeah, they've got a pretty good shot at being the best team or one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best team in the NFC North. But that's going to take a little bit of time to do.
Yeah, there are some nice pieces in Detroit, nice young pieces with Hutchinson and Pascal and Rodrigo. Barnes playing a lot better. You got Okuda, Jerry Jacobs on the outside. Kirby Joseph looks like a keeper. Like there are some nice pieces. Ali McNeil in the middle. They just got to augment that and let that ferment together and grow. And I think they've got a pretty good plan with it. I'm pretty excited about where they're going with that. They seem to have a pretty good idea of what they need to help like their star players. And I think they've identified that Hutchinson is going to be a star player. I think they've identified that Kirby Joseph is going to be a difference maker. Okay, right. Let's make it so our best players are in the best situation they can be to make plays and make impact. I think that Aaron Glenn has done a very good job of adjusting to that on the fly this season.
I agree. And that's why I'm excited about the Justin Jefferson matchup on Sunday, Riz, because I want to see how the Lions match up against arguably the best wide receiver in the game. They did a decent job against Stephon Diggs, but he's another level altogether.
Yeah, he's a different kind too, kind of cat. Justin Jefferson he's more of a like dagger time guy. Like he's gonna go up and rip your soul out. Stephon Diggs is gonna be like, I'm gonna kill you, death by, I don't want to say paper cut because he's more vicious than that, but death by like staples or something like that.
Hey, look, I'm concerned about the Adam Thielen matchup because, believe it or not, I know he's slowed down and he's getting older, but Thielen still is a crafty veteran who can get open and exploit a weakness in the defense.
His ability to run a route
can play too.
Yep.
Thielen's ability to still run a route is unparalleled. He is so good and he will cut himself open. It's weird to say
remember the last game he had that route in the back of the end zone where he got lost in the wash, and that wound up being a very bad play for Detroit.
Let me give you guys a quick look. I mean, this is probably the better view. It's harder with the way the depth of field on this lens and stuff, but if I can get this in front, this is the current state.
Oh wow,
of the world.
That's a lot of balloons.
Yeah, it looks bigger than it does here, but I think it's the lighting and then the way the lens works. But I don't know what to do.
I may or may not have used the balloon quote in the story, so I'm just saying.
I'm trying to think back. Oh God, what did I say? Tony wouldn't. No, this is WWE. He wouldn't have put anything in there like that.
Oh God, no.
I say some dumb things, Tony. We both know that.
I'm right there with you. Believe me.
Oh man, so you got this. What do you think, Brad Holmes? I mean, I don't want to prime the pump on this one or poison the well,
Sure.
but whatever it is. Brad Holmes drafting. I know Riz is completely out on James Houston. Thinks he's a bust and terrible player, but otherwise, just cracking nuts over here. Do you like Wall or pistachios? But Brad Holmes, his performance. What do you think when we walk into next year's draft? How confident are you in what we have in that front office?
I'm confident at this point. I like some of the additions as rookies in the draft. I like the last couple of drafts. They've gotten some needed, necessary players. The one question I have about Brad Holmes has been the free agent pickups. I think there have been some free agent pickups that he's gone through that have not worked out all that well for the Lions. But the drafting has been solid.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Anthony Richardson? He's obviously a big point for folks. I've watched almost every Florida snap. Right, my boy's a freshman there. He literally lives diagonally from the stadium. He's got the good life out there. I sit here and watch him, and I think, boy, he's raw. But I don't know, because he's only a sophomore. He's so young and hasn't really had that time to develop. Riz and I talked about it. Riz says, if I remember Riz, this was us talking. Riz said that, it could actually hurt him to stay another year in college from a developmental standpoint, where I'm like, I feel like another year would actually help him mature a little bit and come out a better quarterback. What's your thoughts on AR-15, as he's known in some circles?
I would tell him to stay in college one more year. Get a little more experience. The SEC is as close to what you're going to find in the NFL as any collegiate football league or any collegiate conference. I would tell him to stay in Florida one more year, work on some of the things that he's weak at, some of the things that he needs to work on. Do it one more year, because look, if he gets to the NFL, he's not going to be a starter right away. He's going to be riding a bench for at least a year. So he can learn a lot through the NFL game, but I think it's better if he proves it on the field, improves his draft stock, goes that way. To me, I'd tell him to stay in Florida one more year.
Yep.
My opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I know he already declared, but I'm just kind of working through it. Riz, you are all about getting our guy out, right? Getting him out and letting him play and grow.
This is like, you've got to take a quarterback. Like there's only one quarterback under contract for next year. You've got to add one. Why not add the one ceiling?
Yeah.
And you get him cost controlled for your first 4 years or 5 years if you need that. Like I don't see a downside to that. I really don't. Like, because you're going to either go out and draft somebody like that, or you're going to pay Marcus Mariota or Case Keenum or somebody like that to be your backup quarterback. Like that's a complete waste of money, because they're not the long-term solution.
Right.
Like, let's go get a guy that might be, and let's have Mark Brunell work with him and Ben Johnson work with him and see how he fits. And if he has the right mindset and the right competitiveness to be with this team and is sort of on the same wavelength. And if that happens, then I'm going to trust them to develop that guy. Mm-hmm. And whether it's CJ Stroud, whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Will Levis, even though I would not agree with that one, whether it's some guy later, whether it's the arm wrestling dude from Shepherd, like that we're going to see in Mobile.
Yeah.
I haven't watched enough of him to have a good opinion on it yet, but there's a lot of dudes that are out there. Like, I don't hate this quarterback class, and we are. And who told us that where we're in? Oh, Schofield said. Mark Schofield said we're in the time of year where all quarterbacks are terrible, and we like next year's group a lot better. We're in that cycle of the draft, and then it's going to swing back. And I just don't like to be in that. That wave. I'm gonna stay up here. I think it's a good class. I don't think it's a great class. I think it's a good class.
I'll argue against myself. because that's what I like to do when I'm alone. And there's no tea talk. When I sit there and I think about, again, Anthony Richardson, he would be something that would be, I think Ben Johnson would find extremely interesting and would be a heck of a toy. And when you think about Ben Johnson, hey, he'll be back next year. I'm certain of it, and I think he's really, really happy where he's at. And I think besides bringing him a big bag of cash, giving him the kind of toy like that he could really tweak that offense around is going to interest him in what he's doing. And so not just and for him, you think you could probably tie Johnson up for 3 years with the right kind of salary and contract and somebody like Anthony Richardson, because for him to be able to develop a guy like that on a project like that, Ben Johnson's so smart, right? To work through that and be able to come out the other side with a finished product. I think that's something that would really motivate him to see through to fruition and then use that to move on to whatever else he was looking at. So it's more than just your quarterback kind of a play, I think.
Hey, Riz, if Johnson was ever to be a head coach, I think he'd do it at the college level first. I don't think he'd jump into an NFL head coaching job. Do you?
I could see that. And I don't, the more I think about it, and Chris brings up good points on it, like he's smart enough not to take a bad job.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Carolina's a bad job right now.
Agreed.
New Orleans, not a good job.
Yep.
Like what? Denver, certainly not a good job. Unless you believe that you can salvage Russell Wilson without any draft capital or cap room for the next 3 years. Like this might be the best Broncos team we see for the next 3 or 4 years. Like, nope. Ain't nobody who has other options going to take that job.
I'll tell you, although
if there is one team that could pull a Minnesota-like turnaround, that could be Denver, based on the way that defense plays.
Yeah,
their defense is really, really good. It's the best scoring defense in the NFL. They have the worst scoring offense in the NFL. And that's saying something in a league where there's Houston.
I have more than one source that the words out of Ben Johnson's mouth is he's in his dream job. If he's in his dream job, you keep it that way.
He's not going anywhere.
Yep.
If his dream job is having Jared Goff as his quarterback, he's got some weird ass dreams.
No,
man.
think about it. But it's the challenge. It's the challenge.
That's
right?
like I can dream about like Rachel Weisz or Julianne Moore or Selma Hayek, and then I'm like
not
Kathy
every
Bates.
day.
Like, where's that leap of faith at? That's
not every day. If you could turn Kathy Bates into Selma Hayek, that's a whole different ball of wax. But Selma Hayek every day, it's like, now what? Where's there to go?
I mean,
right?
Somebody once got tired of being with Halle Berry, and I don't understand that one at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't either.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think when you think about it from a job perspective, though, nobody wants to walk into an easy job. And I think this is the thing, one of the things about Ben, he's such a cerebral guy that, I mean, and you see it in his offenses, that this whole piece, the relationship part with Goff, working with Goff and what Goff can do and can't do to build an offense, this for him, it's like somebody who likes doing Sudoku puzzles at like underwater basket Sudoku, 3D Sudoku or whatever. This is really complex stuff, and I think that's the kind of thing that really he enjoys because it's a challenge in making it work. And that's why a guy, like I said, a good project like an Anthony Richardson would be, I think he would think it's fantastic. I think he would love it.
Reading between the lines real fast, Riz, you kind of like Richardson better than Levis, don't you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not even close. Not even a conversation in my mind.
Okay.
Now, if you're asking them to play next year,
right?
Well, Levis needs to be the guy that goes out there, but we're not talking about Jared Goff's going to be the starter in 2023. He could be the starter for another year beyond that. If he plays the way he has lately, there's no reason to kick him to the curb. But you also do need somebody in and this is one of the justifications I have is next year should be a playoff team. Mm-hmm. But right now you don't have a backup quarterback. Like you need to have somebody that you can have come in case Jared Goff misses 2 or 3 weeks, because those are probably weeks that you can't afford to have him missing. You can't take the zero at the quarterback. So you've got to invest something. Again, why not go out and get the guy who could be the best? And if it doesn't work out, you at least have a fallback plan still in place for 2 more years, and then who knows, whatever you can do. The way quarterbacks have become available. I mean, Baker Mayfield last night played on his 3rd team in 5 months and won a game. And came from out of nowhere. We saw Russell Wilson traded. We've seen Matt Ryan move around. We Carson Wentz being discarded here, there, and everywhere. We're seeing an era where it's easier to acquire a quarterback of some repute with something left. And there might be a team that wants Jared Goff in 2024 in that case, if the Lions are ready to move on. And then you can flip him for 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
Let's say the Arizona Cardinals at that time are tired of Kyler Murray. That's just not going to work out. Like, okay, you send them. I think Kyler Murray's a pretty dang good quarterback, but he's got his foibles and peccadillos and all that. It would be nice if we played less video games, but that's a realistic thing that you could do. Like maybe Jared Goff and a 3rd-round pick to get your Kyler Murray, and the salaries are going to be roughly about the same. Like those options will be there, but you've got to have somebody for next year. Why not get somebody who's good next year?
I agree.
Or has the potential.
That's such a
by the way,
stupid
that's a
move.
job I would not want, by the way, the Arizona Cardinals, when it opens. I don't want that job. I would not want it if I was a coaching candidate.
No, because it's like taking a Green Bay job because your quarterback's the one that's in charge.
Yeah.
You don't want that. I mean, the Kyler Kingsbury thing, that rift is obvious. It's public, and there's so much money wrapped up with Kyler. It's just sorry. And then the new guy comes in, and is he going to be interviewed by your quarterback? Is he going to be kind of under the quarterback's thumb? Aaron Rodgers runs it. LaFleur has done a pretty great job, actually, considering the circumstances he's come into, because politically and dealing with the people and personalities there has to be one of the most difficult parts of that coaching job. It's not running the offense or the defense or anything else. It is managing the ego and the insanity of your quarterback. But I mean, look, when you're immunized, you know what's going on.
Oh God.
So there we go. All right. What else is going on, Tony? Red Wings winning?
No. You know what? It's kind of funny. The Pistons were playing. They were losing to Memphis. I don't know if they lost that game. I stepped away, so I didn't see what the end of the game looked like. But they were losing to Memphis. Red Wings don't play till tomorrow.
Okay. I've heard the Pistons haven't had a great year this year, but the Red Wings are looking a little better. Is that, how you would
Cunningham's out, so
yeah.
I'm checking in from Tampa, Riz. I don't see this stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's okay.
You should check into Tampa. Coming down to Mobile isn't enough.
I wish I had the time to do it. My wife and daughter will be in Fort Lauderdale in January, but I will not be accompanying them. So,
oh well, I'm going to be in Mobile, so
there you go.
We can't do the handoff. All right. Well, Tony, I know it's getting late, man. You've been with us almost an hour. It's always so fun.
You have been with us for a long time, Tony, and we appreciate that. We love having you. I miss talking to you on a weekly basis. Like I love doing those Friday preview shows. I wish
that
we
was
still had
a
the time
blast.
to do them.
So good.
It was a blast. Well, that's my fault, and I apologize because things got a little goofy as work, as I've explained to Chris. But hopefully by the time next season rolls around, things even themselves out, and I will be back.
Yeah, Tony.
Unless Chris slams the door and says, "Don't come back." I've already said that. Thanks to Scott Warhite, I am now Wally Pip. So there you go.
No, you're not. Tony, you can come back. Come on anytime. If you're like, I got an extra Wednesday, I want to talk Lions, you're on. You know that. The door is wide open. I mean, all kinds of skullduggery type of folks come walking through, but you are always welcome through the door. You know that, and would love to get stuff set up with you again.
Thank you. By the way, the Pistons lost 114-103.
All right.
So,
well, maybe young Risden can pick that team up in a couple of years.
Let's hope he has a good game against Plymouth tomorrow. That's going to be a tough one.
That is.
All right, Tony Ortiz, the most wonderful man in radio in Detroit. Tony, I appreciate you again. Thank you so much for everything and joining us in these late hours. I know Riz got a shower, so he's rolling. I'm not nearly as. And
I had pie in every hole of my face, so I kind of needed to do something there.
Thanks for clarifying that one.
Yeah. I always start at a disadvantage, but I'm not as smart as I even am normally, so it's a problem. I think now we're in a tough spot. But thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate you as always. You are absolute rock star, and
no
again,
problem.
one of the most wonderful human beings I know. I keep talking about all the great people we meet, but you really are. You're a great guy, Tony. And you know it. You hear it. I know it makes you blush a little bit, but can't help but tell you.
Thank you very much. And thumbs up to everybody from the Detroit Lions podcast, the fans. That's a great amount of money you've raised for St. Jude's, and that's a great, great cause. So you guys deserve a big hand.
Thank you for the support,
absolutely.
Tony. You rocked it, man.
Anytime, guys. Riz, good to see you as always, sir.
Always. Absolutely.
and I will catch up to you guys later.
All right.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tony.
Woo.